Meeting. It is Tuesday, November 14th. We have a quorum present, and we are certified and compliant with the open meetings laws. And first up would be a public comment. Anybody? All right. Then into communications.
The first item on Greenspire is now a moot point. We thought we may have had a resolution fixing some land ownership before the sale occurred. The information and access date is incorrect. The title search company says we're fine, so we don't have to do anything there. GIP Glacier Moraine, I did the preliminary calculations on their line of credit. I don't know the city's mill rate yet for all properties, but at this point it looks like we're going to be lowering their line of credit from $550 down to approximately $190,000. So you'll see that in December when the actual numbers can be calculated.
Yep, and that's been, since that project's been ongoing, that's been a fairly almost annualized thing that they've come and asked us to reduce that, so.
Correct.
All right, any other communications from anybody? All right, next bit up then is the approval of the minutes from the October 24th of 2023 open session only meeting. And I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes. Move to approve. Dave.
Second.
And second by Lisa. Any edits, questions, comments on the minutes? All right, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
And are any opposed? All right, minutes are accepted. Some reports, Dave. Do we have any reports? I didn't see any in there.
Nope, no reports.
Perfect.
I just
Okay.
left it on there as a placeholder.
Yep, no worries. All right, then into business at hand. We've got the Resolution 173 about the billing services agreement, the EMS management and consultants incorporated.
The company that we've been using since '06 has been bought out by EMS Management and Consultants. We've already signed the contract with them to get things rolling because we hadn't had any billing since May. So we wanted to move forward, and this resolution just approves our signing the contract after the fact.
And that's pretty much the same contract as we had. There's like
Correct. The
hardly
rates
anything.
remain the same and
Okay.
everything, so.
And I saw there's 6.5% service fee, and there's no up on that. I couldn't find that anywhere
Yep,
within
it's
it.
the same fee that the last company charged us.
Perfect.
And Rick had already reviewed the contract, and they were all good with all the red line changes that were made.
All right, and for that 3-year term that's on there, that there isn't like an elevator on that 6.5% that stays flat?
I
for the
don't
3 years?
remember seeing any elevator.
I didn't see it, but.
Yeah, I don't believe so. I
Okay.
think it's just flat.
All right, that was the only, I just wanted to make sure that when I was looking through it, that I didn't miss out on a detail, so.
I just wanted to add, Director Schimmelfingen went to a training yesterday on that, so she might be able to answer any questions that you have as far as how it works and what we need to do.
Okay.
But I don't know if you were aware of that.
No, I wasn't.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, does anybody have any comment on this change of businesses here, or essentially same contract? If none, I would entertain a motion to recommend to council.
So moved.
All right, motion by Lisa, is there a second? Flip a coin, you got Ozzy or Dave?
Well, you said Ozzy's name first, so we'll go up with Ozzy.
All right, Dave, you got the other one. So we'll get you back in the game. All right, are there any other questions on this contract? All right, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
And are any opposed? All right, we'll recommend that to council later tonight. Next is a resolution for irrevocable standby letter of credit for Eldon Land Development LLC, the Magnolia Springs edition.
Rodney, did you want to start on this one?
I certainly can. We have a letter of credit in place with the Magnolia Springs development. One of the stipulations within the city's agreement with them is the letter of credit needs to be from a company with a certain level and grade rating. Small banks in the Madison area, actually there's probably only a handful in the state that probably meet that standard according to the literature that was provided to us by the bank that has the letter of credit with us at this point. So what we need to do as a city decide if we're accepting of the letter of credit. Now just so you understand what the letter of credit provides for, the letter of credit in this development provides insurance that the development is going to move forward and install the public improvements for the Magnolia Springs development, phase 1. Those improvements right now wouldn't be the only risk if it didn't happen. But right now we have a letter of credit in place. We're just determining whether we would require them to move forward with a letter of credit with a different financial institution. In the past, a similar situation, one of the developments had McFarland State Bank, didn't meet that criteria, one community bank now, and we did a similar process. We, as a city, selected and approved one community bank to be accepting or to accept them as a letter of credit holder in a previous subdivision, 51 West. So staff's recommendation, I think Dave would agree, is it seems reasonable to accept the New Glarus Bank letter of credit that's been proposed or provided as a form of letter of credit to meet our standard for this particular development.
I concur, and I don't have anything else to add.
If this is the second time that we've done such a thing, I'm assuming it's just our own ordinance that's making us do this. Is it something that maybe we can revisit to add language in when more local banks come in, like establish a different set of criteria or threshold if only a handful of institutes in the state actually meet the level that we're looking for?
We agree that would be appropriate to reflect on that. The time in which to do so is part of the next development agreement, because this is not an actual, it's not prescribed by ordinance what type of letter of credit is necessary. The amount is prescribed by ordinance, and that's been satisfied. But the letter of credit language that we have in our development agreement causes this, I'll say, somewhat burdensome threshold that seems challenging for most banks in the area to meet.
Okay. Rick, there's nothing that would be in state statute that would require us to adhere to this, right?
It's hard for me to say off the top of my head. I don't think so. Like, I know for subdivisions there are certain requirements on bonds that you can accept, but I don't recall anything specifically about letters of credit. But that's certainly something we can look into.
Okay. All right. Well, let's take this one as just a low priority future agenda item, because this has only come up one other time that I can remember offhand. So,
So in other words, if we get it done in the next 6-8 months. Okay.
Sure. Yep.
Okay.
Because I know we have a fair number of developments that are coming up, potentially coming up. Do we foresee this as we're going to have to do this again 2 or 3 more times maybe, or?
Well, I can't speak for the attorneys, but I assume we're going to need something similar for the Brink development that we're voting on tonight.
I see, okay.
Right now, all this requires us to do is really take a pause and, as I mentioned, the developer move forward with a letter of credit. We're just seeking confirmation that it's acceptable to the city. So in the event that language does get changed in the next agreement, we'd probably have to go through this again unless they worked with a larger institution that met these criteria. I should just add one more thing about the statutes, and I'm not the attorney, but in some situations, a bond, as was mentioned, a surety bond, is the protecting document for making sure the public improvements are made. We've tried to utilize the letter of credit because it seems to be a more swift opportunity to correct the action and seek financial assistance if necessary. Fortunately, we haven't had to seek out either a surety bond or use of a letter of credit in any past developments that I'm aware of, but it is a financial instrument to help us do so if we have to.
Yeah, I would agree with Rodney there. Our preference is always the letter of credit versus the bond. So when we can mandate use of the letter of credit, that's what we'll do. Some cases that's not allowed by statute. There's some discretion involved, but we're always trying to use the letter of credit just because, like Rodney said, it's so much easier just to draw upon it when you need to. Not that you hope you never have to, but it's just so much easier to do that versus a surety bond.
Okay, all right, at least aside from this issue at hand, we'll just take that up as a low priority future agenda item sometime and work through some additional language within the ordinance that'll give us a little more flexibility on future development things. But does anybody have any issue with using the New Glarus Bank as their line of credit? Seemed like they had solid financials, so. All right, well, I would entertain a motion to recommend this to council. Ozzy? Second by, is that you, Ben?
Yeah, online it is.
All right. All right, you got Ben or Dave?
Again, you said Ben's name first.
Sorry,
so-
okay, Dave, you're gonna go to the head of the line next. All right, any questions, comments on this one? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? All right, we'll recommend that one to council and have the action item for sometime in the future. All right, so next up is Resolution 174. That is a waiver agreement to allow Quarles and Brady to represent Stoughton Hospital for easement negotiations.
Stoughton Hospital's trying to get some easements from both the city and Stoughton Utilities for their construction projects coming up. Quarles and Brady approached us because they've got a conflict of interest internally in their firm, and but we only use them for bond counsel. They asked for a waiver. Speaking with their city attorneys, they are okay with the wording on the waiver, so this would just allow Quarles and Brady to represent Stoughton Hospital, talking with the city on the easements. Rick, I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add at all?
And basically, this is a decision for the city, and it's solely within your discretion to say, no, we don't want to waive this conflict. Basically, because the work that Quarles and Brady does for this city is not related to anything that they would be adverse to the city on as far as the Stoughton Hospital matter goes. You don't have to necessarily worry about them sharing like your negotiating playbook or something along those lines. And there will be no communication or anything between bond counsel and the attorney that represents Stoughton Hospital, so there's no like transfer of information or anything like that. So if the city wants to waive the conflict, we have no concerns with the letter.
And this one's only for easements that they're requesting, not anything they're vacating?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Does anybody have any questions or objections to it, or? All right, I would entertain a motion to recommend this to council. Moved by Dave. Second? Second by Ozzy. No tiebreakers in this one. Any other questions on this, on the waiver and what we intend to do with it? All right, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
And are any opposed? All right, we'll recommend that to council. Next up is a resolution, the declaration of official intent 01/2024.
The declaration of intent basically allows the city to pay for funds and use bond proceeds to reimburse itself going up to 60 days before the date of the declaration of intent. We've filled them out in the past where the mayor and finance director have signed it, but the language in the resolutions where we adopt the budget doesn't specifically cite our authority to sign this document, so I thought as part of the budget process we should start including this here so that there's a record that council is giving us that authority. So I drafted the resolution based upon what I saw in the declaration of official intent. The wording is from Ellers each year, so there's not, it's kind of boilerplate, you're just changing the numbers every year. So I'll open up the floor to anybody who may have questions on this.
And at least this specific resolution, we've not seen this. I don't remember seeing this
Correct.
before at all. Okay.
But
This
you will
is-
start seeing it going forward.
All right. This is just a dot the I, cross the T kind of thing?
Right,
Okay,
giving out, spelling out that we have the authority to sign that letter.
perfect. All right. Anybody have any thoughts on that one? All right. We'll look for a motion to recommend this to council.
So moved.
Motion by Lisa. Is there a second? Greg, second. Any other questions, or we're all clear on the intent of this? All right, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
And are any opposed? All right, we'll recommend that to council. Next bit up is Resolution 175 as a real estate purchase and sale agreement, Stoughton Riverfront Development, LLC.
If you remember, back in '21, the council and the RDA had approved the sale of property to Kurt Brink's group, Riverfront Development. It was extended 3 times, and the last extension expired April of this year. There have been negotiations, again, with Brink Development, and we've added various milestones involved to making sure that the city is protected going forward. And so the real estate purchase and sale agreement has been updated to reflect those milestones. The next resolution, 176, the agreement to undertake development, it's pretty similar to what we had before. However, now that we've got the remediation plan approved by DNR, the language was updated in the new developer agreements to cover those areas. At this point, the developer has signed, and the RDA has approved and signed off also. So the city is the final factor on it. Very high-level overview. I know you haven't been involved a lot in it, Rick. Is there anything that you wanted to add?
I would defer to the documents themselves. I know Matt has been more heavily involved in this one, but he's certainly spent a lot of time and effort in trying to make sure that, you know, we've got a firm agreement that is going to protect the city. So, but nothing specific to add.
Mr. Mayor, is there anything you wanted to add?
Unfortunately, I wasn't at the RDA meeting, but we had a lot of internal discussion about the benchmarks and, you know, really trying to make sure that Mr. Brink and his team were in a position to really aggressively market the property. Their plan is to set up shop down here and pre-sell them as condos. So they would come down here and basically, you know, have people come in and to their office, and they can show them some, you know, some building plans and layouts and kind of highlight the area and hopefully accumulate enough interest where at some point they would be able to go to the bank. And I think the benchmarks just kind of lay that out of what the expectations are as far as the timeline. You know, we've been all extremely patient to try to keep this process moving forward. The RDA has done an excellent job of trying to nurture the team and keep interest in it. Initially, as you recall, they were looking at doing multi-unit apartments. The market changed because of supply chains, interest rates, costs went up. We just couldn't make the numbers come out. So this is a different approach. And I think the council had some discussion as well as really wanting to make sure that, you know, Mr. Brink was under contract with the city and the RDA in order to be in the best position he could be in to market the property. And I think that this agreement just kind of lays out the expectations. And my understanding is it was signed off at the RDA.
Correct.
All right, well, this has been kind of a whirlwind, or at least a long time in getting through the whole thing, but Pete must have done some pretty good negotiations in order, you know, really, the buck stops here, so kudos to them for getting through in the negotiations of it. Does anybody have any questions on this one? I know we've seen this one. I don't think a lot has changed within that agreement. Just dates again.
Pretty much so. The Resolution 175, dates changed and milestones were added. That's the biggest
Yep,
summary.
Yep. All right, does anybody have any questions or comments about? Yep, Lisa?
So I see there's several dates in here. When is the actual sale date?
Well, my understanding is the various contingencies and milestones have to be reached first, and the sale will not actually occur until the development group has a certain number of condos pre-sold so that they get a construction financing commitment from their bank. So I am going from memory. One of the major milestones involved is March 1, they have to have basically a commitment letter from the bank saying that if you pre-sell X number or X percentage and whatever contingencies else the bank puts in, they will fund the note, and June 1 is the date to actually receive whatever it is, 50% pre-sold, whatever it would take. So I would estimate that you're probably looking at July before the actual sale occurs. And then the developer thought that if they're adhering to the June 1 date, construction would be starting later in calendar year '24.
And just looking at the agreement, the closing date would be August 1st. The last possible date for the closing date would be August 1st of '24. So that's in line with what Dave suggested. But closing has to occur between now and August 1st, basically, assuming all the conditions are met.
Thank you. That's the part I couldn't find, so thanks.
Yeah, that one was in there, but we did have an end date in there again, as we have before. All right, any other questions on this one? All right, then I would entertain a motion to recommend to council.
I'll move to recommend to council.
Motion by Ozzie, is there a second? Second by Greg. Any other questions or comments on this agreement?
Just to clarify, is that both resolutions in one motion, or are you handling them
I'm
separate?
handling them separately.
They're separate.
Yep, yep.
Okay.
All right, if no questions, then all in favor, aye?
Aye.
And are any opposed? All right, we'll recommend the real estate purchase agreement to council and move on to the Resolution 176, which is the agreement to undertake development of the Stoughton Riverfront development. And we just talked through that. So does anybody have any questions on that developing agreement? All right, if no questions, then I would entertain a motion to recommend that agreement to council. All right, motion by Greg,
Second.
second by Lisa. Any other questions or comments on the development agreement? All right, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
And are any opposed? All right, we'll recommend that one to council. Next item up is a resolution for the library special gift fund, restricted fund balance.
The library has various donations that they've got in the special gift funds. Right now, it's about $250,000, but it's been several hundred thousand for at least the last 15 years. Chapter 43 of the Wisconsin statutes does give the library total control of all funds that are put into their funds. My recommendation to the library board was that they actually have a policy saying what they want to use those funds for. So it's not just sitting out there saying, okay, we're going to use that for Beanie Babies and bubble gum. So Library Council did say that they are going to reserve those funds or restrict those funds for a future expansion of the library, whether that's buying property or a new building. And the resolution that you have in front of you takes that recommendation, saying you're supporting it and requesting that the library board reaffirm that every 3 years at a minimum, just so that it is not forgotten about. Jim, is there anything you wanted to add?
No, you hit all the high points.
Thank you.
So that's just the balance as of today's date, or, you know, whatever date.
Correct.
So
It
that
was-
means if anything else comes into that fund, then that would be a separate resolution to move if they need that.
No, it would be just going forward. So let's just say they get another 25,000 in donations.
Okay.
That would still be restricted for future capital expansions.
Okay,
unless the library board changes their mind.
Okay. Yeah, so this is a special gift fund is for just what it says, gifts, bequests, grants, anything that comes into the library that's not, from the taxpayers. And we typically, we spend a lot of this money in the same year that we get it in, so it's a lot of in and then out. We get it and then we spend it. So a good example would be like getting a grant from the Bryant Foundation, for example. Most of that is expended in the same year and doesn't go and add to the fund balance. But we have, things like interest and, monies here and there that come in and add to that fund balance. But as Dave said, the fund balance it's been pretty consistent, would you say, over the last 10 years or more? You have what you had in the packet there goes back to 2007. So yeah, David just suggested that it would be a good idea for the library board to make official and to say that the fund balance in this fund is to be used for a future expansion or site acquisition. That's it.
Jim, do you have any, are you starting to assemble your list of things wish list of things to work at with it, or?
You mean with regards to a building expansion?
Like what this fund would be used for?
Well, it would basically be used for potentially acquiring property or towards kickstarting a capital campaign to building a new library, but no, we're not at that point right now.
Okay. All right, does anybody have any questions for Dave, Jim, on the resolution at all? All right, if none, I would entertain a motion to approve to council. All right, moved by Ozzy, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Lisa. Any other questions or comments on this resolution? All right, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
And are any opposed? All right. Okay, we've got one last item on here, and that is regarding the acquisition of the rail spur, which has the potential to convene in a closed session per state statute 1985, paren 1, paren E. What can we begin with in open?
Just as a refresher, the council had directed staff to look into potentially acquiring that rail spur. We've got two documents that could potentially go into public or closed session. Legal a privileged lawyer-client communication, and then a cost recovery memo from Becker Consultants. So it's not necessarily that we're negotiating at this point, but because it was labeled as a confidential memorandum, I gave us the opportunity to go into closed session if we wanted to. I'm going to turn it over to Rick now.
Yeah, I think that's a fair summary of basically if we start getting into establishing a negotiating position, we should go into closed session to discuss it. But briefly, just on the rail spur, so we were directed to look into the feasibility of it and potential risks associated with the rail spur. So on the acquisition side, the company that would have owned it, the Stoughton Industrial Development Corporation, as the memo explains, there's no records that we were able to locate that this company actually existed, but we do have newspaper articles about its existence, but nothing at the Department of Financial Institutions. So if the city is interested in pursuing acquisition of the rail spur, what we're at least recommending is trying to reach out to the property owners that the industrial park users reaching out to them to acquire an easement over the rail spur location, basically started from square one and saying we're going to acquire an easement for the rail spur as well as all the fixtures and property on the rail spur easement area, and just take control of it from there. As far as risks associated with the rail spur itself, you know, the memo sort of goes into the 30,000-foot view, but there would be state and federal requirements that go into it, as well as just some other potential liability, whether it's accidents that occur, or, you know, for if there's environmental contamination within that property, the city could potentially be held liable for any remediation costs. So I just wanted to make the city aware of that, and I guess seek further direction on if this is a path that we want to continue exploring, or if, you know, there's not an appetite for seeking out acquiring the rail spur, or dealing with the maintenance and upkeep and all of that. You know, basically just wanted to figure out what the city wants us to do next.
Do you recommend that a closed session conversation?
Yes, if you're directing us to start negotiating agreements and things like that, you know, just getting a sense of what we'd be looking at, that would be appropriate for closed session.
I would recommend that we go into closed session.
All right. Is there a second on that? Second by Greg. All right, I'll do this by a roll call vote. Lisa?
Aye.
Ozzy?
Aye.
Greg? Dave? Ben?
Aye.
Mayor?
Aye.
All right, unanimous consent for closed session.